Today, I am going to save your saves, including one save that is so terrible the person is saying it really affects their mental health and they're going to remove the game from their PC. But first, happy holidays. I happen to celebrate Christmas, so we're rocking one of these today. I just hit myself in the eye. Hot start. Let's go. We start with Husky Nation FBS, who is playing with Inke Yadra Yuluka Placha. They are doing a youth academy save. They cannot sign players from outside their own youth academy. That is awesome. I need help with tactics, youth development, and retaining the current locker room atmosphere. We've won 6 games all season so far, and 1 is the cup, which means pretty much nothing. And this is where they tell me it's a Youth Academy challenge, so no lone song needed. Sorry, boys. You can head on home. Just kidding. Hit it, boys. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Loans, you gotta have loans, you gotta have loans. Oh, you gotta have loans, you gotta have loans, you gotta have loans. You gotta have loans, 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 loans. Why does my hair make me look like I am singing a grunge band from the early 2000s? Anyways, no loans here. Just help with tactics, youth development, and maintaining a locker room atmosphere. We'll start with the fact your locker room atmosphere is actually pretty good. And a huge advantage you're going to have throughout the course of this save is that your team cohesion is going to be really high, which I see you've already accomplished. I'm just going to tell you off the top, doing a youth academy only save with a team that is down in the 2nd division of Croatia is going to be very difficult. Typically, people will attempt this type of save with a team that is at a higher level because their youth academy prospects are going to be more reliable. You are in for a difficult save. And a very important part of this is going to be maximizing the talent you already have. Now, your team cohesion is great. What is not great is your tactical familiarity. Because you have no control over the players that will be coming through your youth intake, you need to adopt a tactic that is able to make use of every type of player. You need to start by training 3 different tactics and rotating, training them throughout the year, not making significant adjustments to them so that your tactical familiarity is incredibly high. If you don't know where you can change your training tactic, it's this little drop down on the training screen. This is a small thing that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but you should hire every position except for a general manager. You can even use your scouts to scout the opposition because you're going to need to get tactics stuff specifically right. Why don't you have a head of sports scientist or a physio? This directly affects your ability to recover from fatigue, you know. But back to the tactics, you need those 3 tactics, like a 4-3-3, a classic one that has wingers, a 4-4-2 so you can use multiple strikers, and maybe this tactic is your 3rd tactic, but you need basic tactics that can take advantage of all types of players. Because you have no choice on who's coming in. Train them well, raise your familiarity the same way that you've raised your team cohesion. But your most important attribute here is going to be patience. You have some talented young players coming through, as we've seen. If you give those guys time to develop in a basic tactic that has good tactical familiarity and your amazing cohesion, you're going to be great. I'll be honest, you have no issues handling your club atmosphere, but if you do start to face adversity, the recipe is always praise at every opportunity. Leading at halftime, praise. Player does something good, praise. At a certain point in a losing streak, you do need to stop yelling at them and use every opportunity to praise those players to help get them back into their best. But your biggest issue is there are a good number of players, namely a winger of any kind, that if they come through your youth intake, they're not going to be able to do this. And then make sure whoever is coaching your youth team is going to run a similar tactic. Your advantage is continuity. Use it. Next on the list, we have Agrathos Sam 17 with a Rockless Thessaloniki in Greece. Just about scraped promotion in the first season, it's become difficult to attract players to the club, which can help us survive in the Super League. Been relying on cheap and young transfers, but they're not good enough yet. Free agents that are good enough want too much money. Been a series of up and down results so far, but 4 losses on the bounce has me worried ahead of the final games of the regular season and the league split. Any tips of gaining reputation and money so I can start to build the club and not be scared of relegation? I'm thinking 2 things without even looking at this save. 1, probably an overreaction because you got promoted above your means. And 2, the only way to increase your amount of money and your reputation, it's winning. It starts with winning. You have to do whatever you can to win. Let's work on stats right now. Let's go to team detailed and all the way down to salary per year in the league. Now, you are at the bottom, but to be perfectly honest, you're within striking distance of every team up to 6th in the league when it comes to salary per year. If you are playing any of the teams above this, from Aris Thessaloniki to Panathinaikos, like Athens, PAOK Thessaloniki, and Olympiacos, you should not expect to be able to beat them. But you are not insecure financially, you are okay, that's fine, that's the same level as most of the teams in this league, and you are within financial striking distance of the majority of the league. What in the devil is this? Plays it all the time, the tactical familiarity is really high. Oh, you're one of these people. Definitely one of these people. This is really creative. I imagine it might actually work out fairly well with your inverted wingbacks, creating more pressure in the middle, defensive wingers offering a deep crossing option, and essentially working as fullbacks higher up the field. I'm just taking a look at these two inverted wingbacks, and my assessment that you are impatient is definitely right. It's clear you have set out and amassed a large collection of talented young players. You need to be patient. Not the only issue you have, though. The issue is not that you're able to sign these better players. This team in 2 to 3 years is going to be able to compete with those teams that you have in front of you, especially as it accumulates experience. Your offense, unsurprisingly, with your tactics, actually pretty good, but you've played 17 matches, which is less than everybody else in the league. You've conceded the 3rd most goals by quite a lot. My main concern for you is the fact that you need players to recover into particular positions in order to take away a midfield, and particularly in this tactic, which we started on, your midfield, once the team possesses the ball and walks you down, wide open. At the start, in the transitional phase, you will be in the right position to defend the midfield, but considering you are not going to be one of the most talented teams in the league for the next couple of years, leaving your midfield this open in sustained possession situations is a bad idea. And my guess is the vast majority of the goals you concede come from sustained passing plays from the other team, where they work their way through your midfield and something opens up when they move the ball side to side. As these players develop, I would keep this tactic on hand as a more offensive option, and you can swagger around with it later and then trust an incredible ball winner to take care of the rest. But at the phase you're at right now, you're losing so much because you can't stop them from scoring. 39 goals conceded in 17 matches is a horrific over 2 goals conceded per game. It's not sexy. I mean, it is sexy, but going with Conte's wet dream here is definitely your best play. And maybe, I know this is a controversial take here, you just play with 3 midfielders that are center back. There's no shame in that, and if you run one as a Metsala, your inverted wingback can still take that spot if they need to. Next. You've got Marcus Rinder with Cork City. Hi Z, I've started very well with Cork City, but hitting some walls 4 to 5 seasons in. Struggling to try to build up Ireland, I have no idea how to help the other clubs around me. Interesting line of questioning here. So they are attempting a nation building save in Ireland. The top prize money has increased by 100,000 since I joined the league. TV money's barely moving. Very little money to spend for the other teams. The Irish Prim is moving up in the rankings, but it really doesn't seem to be helping much. Do I massively overpay for their young talent, or just get a wonderkid farm to loan to them? Secondarily, player recruitment is difficult as no one will buy my players, and to generate more money, no one wants to loan me players. I don't fully understand FTM23's new scouting system. Please help me save Ireland. My last name is Shannon. Might be glad to do it, brother. Before you say anything, that accent was an artistic interpretation, so by law, you can't say it was wrong. Shut up. So unsurprisingly, you're rocking and rolling. You only dropped points in 5 matches all season, although you did lose, and you've won yourself a league title, so congratulations. You gave me 2 options in your description. Do you want to overpay for their talent or loan them talent? The answer is loan them talent. Your goal is to continue to develop players for the entirety of the Irish leagues. You should maintain an entire reserve team that you militantly loan out to the rest of the league and allow them to play against you. I'll honestly go ahead and tell you, you don't have enough players to be able to do this right now, but I'm sure a couple of these youth team players like Legert Wood and Atlee Haugen could definitely help other teams in the league. And an issue I've spotted immediately is that the age of your recruiting profile looks a little bit too high if you're a team that's trying to really elevate in the Champions League. Now, I see we're involved in the new Champions League format that's essentially a giant league table, which if you didn't know that was happening in the future, it is, and you get to experience it in Football Manager. Look at this Luke Burrows guy. But the best thing you can do for Ireland is to continue to win. You develop this large team of youth players and you loan them out to Ireland when the opportunity presents itself, but the more you win, the more money is going to come in. You're still the 49th biggest league. And the way you do that is finding talented young players before they do. And by they, I mean they. So your squad needs to be a farm system for bigger teams, and you need to farm the world's great areas. West Africa, South America, Eastern Europe or Central Europe in the eastern part of Central Europe, so nobody gets angry, and Scandinavia. South Korea and Japan have also been dropping dimes in FM23. Take a look there. I see you've assigned wonderkid scouts to various parts of the world. Now, I'm not a complete expert on the entirely new scouting system, but I do know your minimum current ability is set too high. Players at the level that you want aren't really going to be loaned to your club because the level in your league is way below what the level you're actually playing at is, and that is a problem that will persist. You want to take this minimum current ability down, even if it's on 2 stars, to like 1.5, and the minimum potential ability down. If you're not finding anybody in scouting, that is the fastest way to start finding more people. Wonder kids from world hotbeds and free players from across that little narrow river in England are going to be your solution to elevating your team. And then once a few of those wonder kids come in, you can afford more, and then you can afford more, and then you sell a few for a lot of money because you succeed in the Champions League. This system feeds into itself until you have like 200 players at your club that you're loaning out all over the place. I mean, why not go sign this guy right now? Dude's nuts. The Kvaratskhelia keep coming. Sorry, got distracted. But the more you win, the better players you train in Ireland. And even if you loan out to your limit, you can then start releasing players into the Irish ecosystem that are trained in Ireland that other clubs in Ireland can sign. The more you win, you also drag more Irish clubs into European competition, giving them the opportunity to earn more money. The solution to everything is winning, really. Next, Odd Ed's boat at Middelfart. Semi-pro competing with a half a league that is fully professional. Stuck in this league for a few years now, finally have a decent start to the year and a better team, but still struggling with tactics overall. D seems porous without a defensive midfielder, struggling to get to clear-cut chances, which leads to a decent number of shots, but relatively few goals. Set pieces yield nothing. Note, would have been fired last season, but I used the editor to make myself unfireable. Violation. That's a straight red. Do not pass go and do not collect $200. Just kidding. I totally get it. Competing against professional teams as semi-pro teams, very difficult. I'm about to enter it on Twitch myself. If you want to watch me go through this experience, the link to the Twitch streams down in the description. You said your defense is porous. You're probably being overwhelmed in the wide areas. And the reason your defense is porous if you don't have a defensive midfielder is if you play a tactic that looks like this, your central midfielders do get pulled out by the wingers, and if that happens and you don't have a defensive midfielder that's being disciplined in this area, then once they get pulled away, the open is essentially obvious. Let's animate this with dots in a tactic map. Let's say I'm playing 4 at the back, and then I don't know what you would be cooking up, maybe a 4-2-3-1, but narrow. And then all of a sudden those wings get into those wide spaces and your central midfielders try to go out and cover them. Well, then all of a sudden the middle is open. I don't really know what formation you'd be trying not to play with a defensive midfielder. Is it this one? Because that would still be, if you did this is still vulnerable to wide overloads here. Once these guys get pulled out of position and they're both on very offensive roaming from position roles, they're already pulling themselves out of position, essentially. Of course they're going to be able to get into that space. And the ability of a back 3 to react effectively to that is limited in FM23. They need help slowing down an attack because they do not step well and cover and take away space like a back 3 would in real life. I'm not saying go away from it, but you definitely are going to need to put wingers on the field if you want to be able to play a formation that doesn't have a defensive midfielder. As a semi-pro team, loans aren't typically an option. It is all about catching the pieces that fall down from the top league. Your entire goal isn't signing good young players. It is getting the best possible players you can to get promoted, turn professional, and then really start doing business. Focus on that. Scout for free. That's all you're doing. Just scout for free players. Not transfer. No. What you're doing. So you've got that part right. Nice job. Next, we have Davy Downey Jr. at Union. Have been doing a journeyman, and I'm currently at Union SG in Belgium in my second full season. Managed to get promoted at a cancer last year in the Pro League, and despite a promising start, my first 3 games without conceding once, it's been very scrappy. Finances are great. I'm within my budgets and have bought some players but the club is in red. I can't create a recruitment focus outside Belgium either, so I feel I can't make any major progress through transfers. This club never should have been in the second tier, so I feel staying up would be an underachievement and not sure where to go from here. An underachievement? Sneaky little bit of info. This Union team actually won the league, or at least was top of the league for a long time in real life this year. Yeah, it's in the game. There it is. They won. Kind of. So you took this job in 2026 and then you got them promoted back up to the top league. I really just kept this save in here because I wanted to tell you one thing. Do what you're doing. I get your frustration. You're not dominating the way you did in the second league. You can't scout out of Belgium yet. Stay in this league for a year. You're fine. Your finances are only in the red 871,000, and if you sell my boy Andre Leopold or Blaron Krasniki, which might sound painful, you erase that debt and then some. The longer you stay in this league, the healthier you're going to be. So just stay here. You're okay. In and out. And that is exactly what I would like to tell the last person on this list. Carol Zolt. Now, Carol Zolt did not submit a response on the Save Your Save responses sheet on the subscriber section of our Discord, which if you've not joined our Discord, then by all means do that. And if you want to submit for Save Your Saves, you gotta subscribe on Twitch, because if we open it up in the regular Discord, there's just way too many for me to read them all. But Carol Zolt actually emailed my business email, and the Zealand team, the Zine, thought it was so dire that I needed to read it. They said, I used to watch some of your videos a while ago, and at that time I tried to sort of improve my FM skills. The truth is that I'm just and I'm at the point where I'm probably going to remove the game from my PC, as it really affects my mental health. But before that, I'd like to share my current rubbish save with some experts to see what they can achieve with it and how they do it. I tried everything I had in my power, but my players are unable to play football. I had a good season with Reading. I promoted them to the Premier League, then the issues started in the end of the season. The owner of the club decided to sell my key players without asking me. Things didn't go well, so I accepted an offer from Leeds to join them in the next season. In the end, we still managed to win the championship, but I already had a contract signed with my new club. Then the new season with Leeds turned into a nonsense rubbish. It feels like the game engine constantly is punishing me for joining another team. Not sure how to feel about it apart from frustration and regrets to play. I love the idea of the game, but it's just too hard. And to be honest, I cannot spend full days with figuring out every single small tactical issue. Here is a link for the save in case you want to have a look. I play FM21. Normally, I would not go back to another version of the game for Save Your Saves, but in a situation this dire, this is what Save Your Saves is all about. I will. So the first thing I was curious about, you when you got promoted, you had already accepted a job with Leeds, who was at this time in the top flight. So you moved back up to the top flight, currently in 12th with 4 wins from 11, but those wins coming perilously early in the season, with the last Premier League win being a standalone 1-0 at home against Norwich, surrounded by some absolutely major drubbings. Now, tactically speaking, when I first look at your tactic, it looks rather primitive. 2 fullbacks on support, pretty low involvement for modern fullbacks. A 4-2-3-1, there's nothing wrong with that, but I do see where you're making the mistake. You are overcomplicating it. You have time wasting on sometimes, but you also play at a higher tempo with shorter passing. That's typically reserved for teams that have better mental and passing standards than their opponents, but you have below average technique for the league. Your vision and your passing are, if at least slightly, above the league average. But the ideas here of having underlaps while also hitting early crosses, so you have your team wait and look for underlaps while also being told to hit early crosses, which are generally counterintuitive. You're playing for set pieces while you actually have the lowest jumping reach and strength on average of any team in the league. Not all of it's wrong, right? Passing into space is great. Your forward's Rodrigo. He has good pace. But I think you really make some mistakes when you go for this. An incredibly high line against teams that are definitely going to be more athletic and explosive than you. I think you are opening yourself up to get absolutely massacred here. I mean, Robin Koch and Dimo Krastev are not bad center backs at this level, but I can understand your frustration in conceding what must be repetitive goals by just getting beaten over the top repeatedly, or with a ball out wide and then a through ball across and your center backs are caught up the field again. It is perfectly acceptable to play something like this and still be able to prevent short goalkeeper distribution. Something that I think might help with your extreme pressing urgency is staying on feet so that your players don't dive in once they get there, and then maybe you have a ball winner like Calvin Phillips that you go into his personal player instructions and you tell him to tackle harder so that he still gets stuck in when he has the opportunity. But this right here just feels like an absolute monstrosity, especially when compared with this. Also, if you're going to be unpositive, you need another person on attack. This is not enough to do this, and probably one of these 2 guys on defend. This is not enough to create pressure on the back line. This is too far back. This is too far back. You don't want to send both of them forward, but one, maybe at least a wing back, and wingers on support are not going to get those runs into the box enough to help you out. Put one of these guys on defend. Don't care which one it is. Somebody's got to anchor. The rest can go crazy and join the gegenpress that you're looking for here, but somebody has to anchor. And create 2 more tactics, one that is more offensive and one that is more defensive. They can be generic, and just have those available. Make sure they're trained up with enough familiarity so you can adapt to a game situation. 15 minutes to go, let's pop it in reverse. Go play defense. Maybe we're losing, let's pop it in attack. But if you don't have fast center backs that don't have great positioning or transcendent teamwork or high concentration, which is them paying attention to not get beat over the top, then playing this extreme high line against some of the best teams in the world is not a good recipe for preserving your sanity. But I want you to know, the board has you to C+. You're not failing. And last season, Leeds finished 11th in the league, and you are only in 12th. I know getting blown out by a few teams in a row can make it feel like the world is ending. But it happens in real life and in Football Manager, and you are not doing nearly as poorly as you think you are. So I hope you're able to continue to enjoy the game. That's it. We've saved some saves. Hope you guys had a very happy holiday season. This was obviously filmed before I went home and joined my family for a little while for Christmas and then New Year's. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you for allowing me to entertain you guys as a job, because it's something that I really enjoy, and we will always be striving on this channel to try and make the best, most informative, entertaining stuff for you guys as possible. I think that sentence made sense. I love you guys. Thank you, and I'll see you on another Save Your Saves, which there's already a bunch, and this is a playlist that you can binge forever.